Welcome to our session focusing on consumer co-ops and the role of consumer cooperatives in the circular economy. Of course, sustainable consumption and circular economy is the theme of the day. Apologies for the 5-minute delay. Just wanted to gather all participants and, of course, attendees as they shift from the keynote speech segment of the program to our session. We have 90 minutes to address a very particular issue, which is, of course, the contribution of consumer co-ops to attaining a more circular economy. We have coming from 4 different countries and national organizations: Finland, UK, Sweden, and Spain, of course. I will be your moderator for the session. I will do my best to keep to the time. Each one of the speakers will have anywhere between 15 to 20 minutes. And I will keep an eye on the chat as well to see any questions coming in from there. So perhaps for the record, I can explain what the session's remit will include. We will explore our members' activities and innovation in tackling food waste and food loss, optimizing their internal operations within the supply chain, product labeling, of course, and sustainable resource management, climate action targets, and most importantly, I shall say, empowering consumers through awareness and education about sustainable consumption and healthy lifestyles. And of course, working with the suppliers along the value chain towards a green transition. Consumer co-ops are member-owned enterprises engaged in retail, and us being member-owned and having an inherent responsibility to the local community, we are drivers for circular economy. We base our economic efforts on maximizing benefits and not maximizing profit. There is a subtle but very important difference. And we focus on, of course, satisfying the interests and needs of our individual members and the local communities that our cooperatives exist in. Empowering consumers is the order of the day, and it is pursued through radical transparency of all aspects of our business: the operations, the origin of the goods and the environmental footprint, quality of the food products, and even, of course, as we're going to find out, nudging and perhaps shifting and educating and informing members and consumers for more healthy and sustainable diets and lifestyles. So the star-studded speaker list include, I shall perhaps give just go through the speaker list, and then I will allow each one of you to present yourselves as your speaking order arrives. So we have Ms. Nina Eloma, who is Senior Vice President for Sustainability from the S Group in Finland. We have Mike Pickering, CSR Manager in Midcounties Co-op in the UK. Ms. Charlotta, apologies if I cannot pronounce your name properly, Szczepanowski, who is Head of Sustainability and Quality in Co-op Sweden. And of course, Carmen Redondo Borge, Director of Institutional Relations in HISPACOOP, Spain. And finally, I don't know whether I introduced myself. My name is Todor Ivanov, and I'm the Secretary General of EuroCoop, based in Brussels since, I have to say, 1957. We always stress that point, that our association was established just 6 months after the formation of the European Commission. And we represent the organizations which we have as speakers today, but also in total 19 national consumer co-op organizations. And our mission in Brussels is to partner with the European institutions for higher advocacy, representation, and visibility of our consumer cooperatives, to provide the innovation and know-how and connect that as solutions to the policy objectives of the institutions, but also, of course, to make it clear that we are all in this together, and specifically when it comes to sustainable circular economy, apologies, when it comes to circular economy, well, we need a conducive and an enabling environment for our members to maximize their potential. Without further ado, may I give the floor to Nina Eloma from the S Group in Finland.
Thank you very much, Todor, and really nice to be and talking about our actions as well, and hear the experiences from others, from other countries as well. So my name is Nina Eloma, and I come from S Group from Finland, and working there as the Senior Vice President for Sustainability. And I will today discuss about our climate actions especially, and how we are trying also to encourage our suppliers, but in addition also our let's say our consumers or our customers towards more sustainable lifestyles. Okay, let's go and first the next slide, please, Todor. About little bit about S Group. So we are of course known mostly from our retail sector, but I also want to emphasize that we are working in other areas as well. So we have department stores, we have also banking, so we have S Bank. We are providing services to our customers through service stations, so we have also fuel on in our portfolio. And then we are in travel industry and in the restaurant sector, so that also is an important part of S Group, and even hardware trade. This of course becomes then relevant for us to consider the sustainability topics in all these business areas, and makes us also a big influencer, one can say, towards what customers are doing, and we have a huge impact in society. And that's also something that we need to take into consideration when we think about our sustainability actions. Whatever we do, it has a huge impact on the customers, but it has also a huge impact on the partners with whom we are operating. And that we also try to tackle in our sustainability work. Just to highlight a few topics, 2.5 million Coop members in S Group. So we have almost 40,000 employees working in S Group. And if we consider, for example, the 78% of all households are Coop members, so we have a huge impact. Let's go to the next one. Part of our strategy has been always sustainability, but it has been now highlighted also very high on the agenda in our business strategy, and we want to be the leader within our industries in sustainability. And I think this also underlines the importance of sustainability actions we have within the S Group. We can go to the next one. We did the revision of our sustainability program last year, and we are now focusing for the 10-year period, so we are looking till 2030. And this is also a change from the previous sustainability programs we have had within the company, those being more or less 5 years. But now we are looking a bit further for the 10-year period. The interesting part is, of course, that we have now the name of our sustainability program is Together We Build a Better Place to Live. And this is at the same time the mission of S Group. So this also shows the level of integration of the sustainability within our operations. We have 3 different, let's say, sections, and maybe the one that we are focusing today is more or less the first 2. So towards sustainable consumptions, new normal, together, one step at a time. And there, I think the important goals that we have till 2030 is to focus on the plant-based foods so on the planetary diet, and of course then promoting the domestic food. But important part is of course towards sustainable growth, respecting nature, so carbon negativity till 2025. And there we have also the circular economy and also the biodiversity aspects that we have now highlighted in our program more. The inequalities and equal world is extremely important. So human rights, not forgetting them, and also the kind of the transparency, the traceability, and how we can inform more our consumers and our customers on the topic is highly relevant. Maybe we can go to the next slide, please, Todor. So the carbon negativity target, we want to be carbon negative by 2025, but at the same time, this is focusing on our own operations. We want to also help our customers towards more climate smart life and encourage our suppliers and partners setting in their climate targets. And how we are then going to do this is explained more or less on the next slide. So when we want to go to the carbon negativity, it's about reducing our own climate emissions, and this we want to decrease by 90% by 2030. There are things that where we can't go necessarily to the zero, and we understand that. And that's also why we want to have the climate compensation and the carbon sequestration activities, which is the number 4 topic there. But requiring then from us the energy efficiency investments, so also being resource smart, and then of course focusing on the renewable electricity, and why not even thinking this more in the future when it comes possible, also on the when we talk about other energy as well. Next, please. But when we want to go carbon negative and we talk about our own emissions, it's only 2% of the total of our climate impact. Majority of the emissions, of course, comes from the value chain, so something that is happening before us and after us. So the emissions from the value chain, so the so-called Scope 3 emissions, are 98%. And this is really the case. It was that in 2019, and that was also the case for last year. And in total, 8 million tons of CO2 is our climate impact when we combine this. So we are talking about quite big amount of impacts that we have. And that's the reason why we also need to focus on the Scope 3. So what we are doing with our customers and what are we doing with our suppliers. Next, please. And there is then the kind of the activity that we have taken a couple of years ago already. So what we have tried to do is to engage our suppliers. So we have set together with them a 1 million tons reduction of the CO2 emissions by 2030. And this is something we called a big deal campaign. It's called campaign, but I would say it has become a program. And we have encouraged our suppliers to join the campaign or the program, and also encouraging them to set their science-based emission reduction targets, and also report that through the CDP supply chain program. This is a totally voluntary approach. So we are not requiring this. We are not saying to them that they need to go for it, but we want to encourage. And we have actually seen that this is a very effective way of doing it. Here are listed some of the companies, and you can say there are big global companies like Unilever, and then there are the small companies that are only Finnish. And but this is possible for all of them, and we are supporting and helping also for them to set their targets and consider these topics. It's not only those who are providing us products, but also those who are actually our service partners. So everybody can join in and be part of the common road towards climate neutrality or even negativity. We can take the next slide, please. Other climate activities that we are doing is also that we have our own wind power. So we are investing in renewable electricity. So we have wind power, wind parks, and also solar panels. So we are setting them on the roofs of the markets and so forth. So we are the biggest solar power producer in Finland. We have also been doing or supporting the climate research and also supporting e-learning platform, a free e-learning platform for farmers to do the carbon farming, meaning that they can use the new, or let's say teach them to have the new farming methods in order to have a way of farming that is actually sequestrating the carbon instead of being producing it. And then not forgetting how important it is actually to also focus on the circular economy, to the sustainable consumption part, because they have a huge impact also to the climate in the value chain. Next, please. So what we can as a retailer do to support the customer's sustainable choices? Of course, we have to understand that we have to respect what the customers decide. We can't go there and tell them exactly what they should buy. They make their decisions themselves, but we can nudge. And one of them is that we have had a lot of campaigns and also kind of promoting the seasonal products. And we have seen that, for example, last year, 5% increase in the fruit and vegetable category group. So we are able to change the diets, we are able to nudge people towards that. And then of course the important part is that we provide also information, which is actually the next slide where we have created this kind of applications. Oh, sorry, we have also the domestic fish here. So the domestic fish, if you go to that slide, Todor, this is also a great example. Because when we started the campaigning, the 20% increase in the sales of the domestic fish. And interestingly, when we started that in 2019, this has been steadily the case from there on. So quite exceptional and quite remarkable changes that you can also make. So this My Purchases service that we have, there are different calculators, and one of them is the carbon footprint calculator, where we provide the information for the customers, what kind of carbon footprint present their grocery basket, so to say, and we inform the customers about this and try to also encourage. When they see the data, they can also themselves compare. But I know that this is something that we need to develop further. And then on the next slide, we have also combined the information to the nutrition calculator that it was the recent development. So this is also something where they can see the nutritional value, because I think it's important that you combine the environment and health aspects. You can't only consider the environmental part nor the health part, but you have to combine them. And I think this is important also to the customers and to the consumers to know. And this has been developed together with the kind of the leading nutritionist in Finland. And hopefully we can in the future also develop this type of applications further. And this is one of our focus areas, definitely. But I think I will end my presentation now. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Nina, for this inspiring presentation on what you're doing in Finland. Of course, it emphasizes the role, or at least the strategy that you presented, in terms of you have growth for your business in the middle, and then this growth depends, of course, on how you care for your customers and your consumers, who in our sense, in the co-op sense, in the co-op definition, are the owners of the business, how you care about them, not only about their sustainable aspirations or environmental aspirations, but also their health, and how you care about the environment, because obviously we know the big challenges everyone is facing and the whole planet is facing in terms of environment, how you're nudging and how you're partnering with your suppliers And then, of course, something which I know that you're doing in Finland, but you haven't addressed in this presentation specifically, is, of course, caring about workers' rights and decent working conditions, and you're focusing on due diligence across your supply chain. So thank you very much for this presentation. I would like to open the floor for any quick questions. Now, mind you that we are going to have a concluding part of the session where we can address any questions, comments, remarks concerning everything we've heard in the 4 presentations. Several questions after each presentation. So feel free to use the chat to raise your hand and make a comment or ask a question. I have some questions of my own, and looking at the chat, I don't see any questions coming in. Maybe while people are typing, I can ask you very briefly, Nina. You said working with the suppliers is, asking your suppliers to report on their environmental footprint and to base, to devise science-based targets. All this is voluntary. So the tricky question is, how open are they to picking up this type of pledge? How open are they?
They are very open, and I think one of the things what we have tried to also emphasize during this big deal program is that we are here together. We are trying to do this work together, and I think it's also important that when we have organized this type of meetings, or let's say gatherings or events with those who are in the program, they are very good sessions. They are sharing the information. They are learning from one another, and it has also kind of created this type of learning from your peers type of and from your friends, from your partners type of approach. And we are kind of have been able to also kind of network the partners with one another. And I think that I feel at least that many of the people have felt that this is a kind of there are very many common topics and common challenges that they want to spar with one another. And from company to company, it seems it's easier because the problems and the challenges are pretty much the same. So they also learn from one another. And we have been able also to support with our knowledge and also learn from our partners. So they are sharing the information. And I think that the science-based targets and the CDP approach is something, of course, because there is now the third party also looking on the data and the information, so it makes it more reliable. And I think that's one of the great things that is happening.
Perhaps I have one question which actually relates. I would like to ask each one of the speakers. I mean, maybe I can ask it now, and then in the end, also everyone can reflect again on it. But the question is, what role do you see for policymakers in helping you maximize the positive outcomes of your operations and of your strategies? I mean, specifically talking about obviously science-based targets. You need research. You need the science. Do you see a role in, I don't know, public institutions, academia, think tanks? How do you see that nexus? What role do you see for that?
I think that what we have done is something that we have been working together with the academia and the scientists, because what we can't be the one, for example, who are defining that information. When we created the carbon calculator, there is the Finnish Natural Resource Institute who has actually done the CO2 factor data, providing us that information and doing that. So we need them definitely. I think that the policymakers have a big role also. I think the regulation in some cases is definitely needed. And I think one of the aspects that you, Todor, mentioned, which was not highlighted in my presentation today, is when we talk about, for example, the human rights. And that part, I think that when we are now discussing in EU about the human rights due diligence legislation and that part, I think it makes sense, because we have to somehow try to boost that aspect in companies as well. How it will be done is of course a tricky question, and there are a lot of challenges in that. But sometimes I feel the regulation is also very good kind of a tool. So we need the policymakers as well, and we need the scientists. So this is something that we have to base the information and the data on when we are working with this kind of topics. We can't create it ourselves. It can be also confusing to the customers. So the people
Yes,
get confused
absolutely.
if there are different information coming from different companies. And we have actually seen that in the discussions related to the CO2 labeling, for example. How are these things calculated? So highly relevant question, Todd, or comment from your side. Thank you.
Thank you, Nina. I see a question from our chat coming from Mariano Glass. I know Mariano personally. He works in the Cooperativo Obrera, which is the leading consumer cooperative in Argentina. So a very warm welcome to you, Mariano, and thank you very much for joining us all the way from Argentina. Probably it's quite early there. The question, Nina, for you is, what is the role of S Group employees in the development of your initiatives?
Very big. So Mariano, thanks for the good question. So when we have, for example, built the new sustainability program, the employees were involved in that discussion. And I think that when we consider, for example, the kind of the different actions that our employees are doing in the markets and thinking in the restaurants, they have a brilliant ideas how we are trying to reach these targets. And they are doing a huge job in that. They are creating, for example, in the food waste reduction targets, how they are going to do it. They have the different ideas, different initiatives. Our local co-ops have a huge role when they think about, for example, the circularity topics, because many of these actions that we need to do, they are very much local. So that's why the local kind of understanding when they are creating these kind of topics is really important, and they have a great ideas. They are knowledgeable. They know the practical part. They know how it will operate. So they have a huge role, really important. So great that. Sorry if I didn't emphasize that enough, but they have a big role.
Thank you, Nina. So I suggest, looking at the chat, there are no further questions, but feel free to pose them at any moment. Then thank you once again very much, Nina, for your presentation. And we move towards to the second speaker on our panel, Mike Pickering, Corporate Social Responsibility Manager at Midcounties Co-op. Mike, you have the floor.
Thank you, Todor, and hello everybody. And on behalf of thank you very much for inviting us to be involved in this session. So we are an independent cooperative society within the UK. We're one of the biggest retail independent co-op societies in the UK. We've got a range of businesses, including food retail, childcare, travel, healthcare, utilities, and funeral. And what I'm going to talk to you about during this session is how we are engaging with our members and consumers to take action around climate change and drive responsible consumption. In a moment, I think Todor is going to share a few slides. So thank you, Todor, just while they're being shared. The first thing I just want to talk about is a slight backdrop. Is as a business, we're very proud of our recent achievements within the sustainability space. Over this year, we've achieved one of the really significant awards within the UK, the Sustainable Leaders Award within the Business of the Year, which is a real standout award for us, which we're very proud of. And that's very much in recognition for our response to the COVID pandemic, but also our ongoing activity to support climate action. We've also held the Queen's Award for Sustainable Development, which we're particularly proud of. And we've also got the Fair Tax Mark, which shows our transparency within our tax dealings and reporting. We also work with a range of other co-ops within the UK and around the world to really take action on important issues, including the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And if we just move on to the next slide, one of the core reasons that we've been able to achieve those accolades is because of our members, and our members being the heart of everything that we do. So what we do, we ensure that we work with our members through engaging them through insights and surveys and events to really understand what our members want us to focus on as a society and what they want us to achieve. And this really helps us live our values in action of democracy, openness, equality, and social responsibility. And it's that member engagement and feedback that really drives our activity. And it really helps us drive our achievements towards the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And if we just move on to the next slide, this is really at the heart of what I'm going to talk about, and it's our One Change campaign, and it really epitomises our member engagement programme. So we launched One Change in order to try and inspire and change behaviours of members and consumers to take action on climate change. And the concept behind this is that climate change is very daunting for a lot of people, most people. When you start looking at the facts, it can be really hard to get your head around what you can actually do to make a difference. And the idea of One Change is to encourage people just to make one simple change that anyone can make, just to start that journey. So we launched that with our members, just encouraging that one change. But what we then did was we played those changes back to our members and shared that best practice to enable the sharing of ideas and collaborations to take place. And that evolved to various projects, which I'll come on to in a moment. We also spun that round slightly and asked our members the one change they want us to make as a responsible business around climate action. And we got various pieces of feedback from our members around what they want us to focus on. And we formed our short-term and long-term climate action activity around that feedback. And again, I'll come on to some of those details in a moment. Also, as a result of the One Change programme, we were able to ask our members and identify the types of things we could do together collaboratively with members, such as community volunteering, tidy-ups, and creating useful structures out of waste plastics. And again, I'll come on to a bit more of that detail in a moment. And again, one of the great things about being part of the co-op movement, we're able to share that best practice amongst other co-ops so that co-ops can work together to really make a difference around climate action and sustainable consumption. So if we just move on to the next slide, I'm just going to talk about some of the impacts that we've achieved as a result of that One Change programme. And I'm going to focus first of all around waste reduction. So one of the things we did through One Change was within our food stores, we provided information to members and customers around sustainable choices that they could make actually in the shops. And these shelf edge labels indicated some advice and guidance, including choosing loose fruit and vegetables rather than those packed in plastics, and also using reusable carry bags and that type of advice that we can give within the store to help that sustainable consumption. We also engaged with an environmental ambassador within the UK called Cal Major, who's well known within the UK for her stand-up paddleboard activity, in which she tackles plastics from the waterways and picks up the litter as she goes along on her paddleboard. And she's achieved some fantastic things within the UK. And working with Cal, we've run various events with our members, whether it be online or in person, to really inspire that change. And one of the things that really came out of that was mass volunteering around community tidy-ups, which we were enabled to mobilise across our communities. And this was a great example of our members, colleagues, communities and schools working together to tackle litter from the natural environment. And in an On World Environment Day in 2019, we enabled on one day 700 volunteers to tidy up 300 bags of litter from the natural environment. And even during 2020, clearly where it's been difficult to do this type of activity due to the pandemic, we were still able to engage members virtually, where Cal Major carried out an expedition of the River Severn to tackle plastics in the UK. And our members were able to follow that online via blogs and through competitions and that type of thing. Now, the picture in the bottom right-hand corner takes me on to the EcoBricks programme. So what our members told us as a result of One Change was that they wanted us to work with them to come up with solutions, innovations to reuse waste plastics for something useful rather than them being thrown out. So we developed our EcoBricks programme, which is essentially a waste plastic bottle filled with other waste plastics to form a brick. And those bricks can then be put together to form useful structures. And we made a turkey shed with one of our community partners in the Cotswolds in Oxfordshire in England, working with local schools and local members. And that was a great example of collaboration in using something that would be going to waste for something useful. Our members also have told us that they want us to tackle single-use plastics from our services and operations. And in fact, when we surveyed members, 94% of members stated this as a really high priority for us. And one of the specific things they asked us to do was to remove single-use plastic carrier bags from our food stores. So we did that last year and we replaced them with compostable carrier bags. and this is reducing 8 million plastic bags a year from our food stores. So that one change really has made a significant difference. We're also, as a result of member feedback, implementing other innovations such as milk vending machines and also refillable food stations in selected stores. We're also aware from our members that food waste is a really key issue, and obviously from an environmental perspective, this also has a significant impact. And that's one of the reasons for a number of years now we've sent all of our food waste from our food stores to anaerobic digestion to produce renewable energy, and actually produces enough energy to power 40 homes a year. We're also working on innovations to reduce that food waste even further going forward, such as apps and food share schemes. And as a result of a lot of our internal activity, we've also been able to increase our recycling rates to 99%. So across our operations, 99% of our waste is being recycled. Again, something our members have asked us to do and are really keen on us achieving that. So we'll just move on to the next slide, please. The next area I'm going to talk about is energy saving and how we've used one change to really drive forward this angle. So this year, we launched a campaign with our members to encourage our members to complete an online environmental footprint calculator, so members could learn what their footprint is. And then as a result of that, we then engage them in one change pledges to reduce that footprint. And it could be simple things like switching the lights off when they leave a room, or signing up to things like a renewable energy tariff. And it's this latter element which I'm going to go on to now, because one of the things we are doing as a society is trying to support our members to make the one change pledges that they're talking about. And one thing that we've launched and offer is a Co-op community power tariff for our utilities business, in which we buy community renewable energy from community energy groups and sell that for our community power tariff. So we enable that low carbon solution to get to the market, and we engage our members in signing up and using that renewable tariff. Through that, we've created some great partnerships with community energy groups, including solar schools in the UK, buying excess energy from solar PV on these schools. Further along that journey, we've also, throughout our food stores, selected food stores, we've got electric car charging points, trying to increase the access to electric vehicles, and that's a really big push for us as well. We're also aware that members want us to reduce energy and our greenhouse gas emissions. That's something that they've told us through one change. That's why over the last 5 years, we've reduced our energy usage by 11%, saving 5,000 tonnes of CO2. And the real driver behind that is colleague education and engagement, engaging colleagues on what they can do in the workplace to save energy. But it's also through property projects such as doors on chillers and LEDs within our stores. We've also embraced some innovations with electric hearses within our funeral business also. And all of this activity is really helping us drive towards our long-term ambitions of halving our greenhouse gas emissions over the next 5 years. So just move on to the final slide. So one change, in essence, is a real useful format for us to engage our members in taking action and making a change. So as well as being relevant for the energy saving and waste reduction activity I've just talked through, this is also transferable to another areas around sustainable consumption. We've used it for fair trade and local food, and we'll continue to really drive our One Change programme to help us achieve the UN Sustainable Development Goals and drive those forward. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you, Todor.
Thank you very much, Mike. Wow, as a conclusion, I could probably say, look at what can happen with just one change. I mean, one thing, and you can start changing the entire world. I mean, wow, really inspiring. Thank you very much. Well, perhaps I could ask, well, first of all, let's see whether there are, I don't see any questions in the chat, but also, dear speakers, whether, well, if you have questions for each other, please feel free to go ahead. But my question to you, Mike, would be how, let's say, probably the same thing I asked Nina about the suppliers, but how open are consumers and your members to further change, and how welcoming are they of what you're doing? And because you have a system in place where you can collect obviously massive amount of feedback, and do you feel that you are basically operationalizing your consumers' aspirations as much as they would want you to do? And a follow-up to that question is, do you receive more feedback about further change that they would like you to operationalize?
Yeah, so I suppose answering that question in two, the first element of it, I think is a really interesting one, because our member base are very passionate about this type of thing and making a change within the space of climate change and responsible consumption. But equally, they're also very aware of the commercial aims of a cooperative society. And I think we have some really interesting conversations with our members. It's not always a case of being able to just get rid of everything and suddenly, there'll be no plastics and everything gone, because there's a real understanding there that as a commercial business, you have to operate sustainably in the long term. So our members are fantastic to give us insight around that, and we do have some really good open conversations at our events around what we can achieve and what perhaps we can't achieve, or what we can work towards. So there is a desire there for members, but there's also a realism about what we can do, but what we can also work on. But particularly on the latter part of the question, I think that's a really interesting one, because in a way, as a business, you do have to be quite brave to regularly ask your members and customers about the change they want you to make as a business, because it does open up, and you then do need to further feedback on what it is that members want us to achieve. And what started off as being quite a general conversation about reducing some energy usage has really expanded onto, which a lot of people obviously are now talking about, being net zero carbon by 2040 or 2050, 2040. And that's the sort of thing that some of our members are quite rightly now switched on to, and will be asking us to make sure we're making a difference within.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I do understand that there is like a snowball effect, that the further, the more achievements that you attain, and the more you inform consumers, the better it gets, and the more change is being driven forward. It's very welcoming to hear that there is a great degree of realism, because when we talk about sustainable development, we don't only mean responsibility towards the climate or the social aspect, but economic viability is on par with the other two aspects of sustainability, because in the end of the day, some business-wise decisions need to be made. Now, of course, in a cooperative, we embed sustainability in the decision-making process, obviously, but one should not be at the expense of the other. One facet of sustainability cannot be at the expense of the other. But thank you very much, Mike, again, for really, maybe if I could conclude draw the conclusion of your presentation, a specific thing comes to mind, in that, consumer cooperatives have been around. We are actually the first modern cooperative enterprise. The consumer co-op is the first modern cooperative enterprise in 1844, obviously with the Rochdale pioneers and all that. So we've been around for quite a long time, and we've been doing business for quite a long time. But in certain parts of the world, but I think it's applicable for everyone in every nation, at a certain moment in the history of a national cooperative movement, at least, this has happened several times in our 175-year history, is we must have probably been in a situation where the co-op has asked, what is the true meaning and what is the true mission and role of the co-op society? And is the co-op society keeping up with the development of the world? Like, basically, can the co-op society offer solutions to the problems of the day? And I think, obviously, with the presentation from Finland and your presentation as well, and I'm sure with the next two, the answer to that question is yes, quite rightly. Consumer co-ops can be can be originators, let's put it that way, and a source for valuable input. And the way you build credibility is very important, because in the end of the day, we are a food retailer business for the most part, and trust is our currency. It's not money. And if we lose our credibility, if we lose members and customers and consumers' trust, then everything goes down here from there. So we could see in your presentation how you managed to further build up your credibility with very important community engagement exercises. Thank you once again, Mike. Keeping track of time, I would like to move to our next speaker. Perfect. So we have Carmen, Director of Institutional Relations in HISPACOOP, which is the National Federation or Confederation of Consumer Cooperatives in Spain. Carmen, we look forward to your presentation.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Tudor, and thank you for the audience. You can hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
You have the presentation, but I would like to explain that HISPACOOP represents consumers through consumer and user cooperatives in Spain. And we are a consumer organization, and talking about the role of consumer in circular economy, we think that consumers must play a key role in this transition to the new circular economy. Circular economy provides a new economic model and a future for achieving a cleaner and more sustainable consumption model. It represents an opportunity to change our production and consumption model. In other words, for us, is to do more with less. And we have the capacity to change, but it requires an effort of all of us and leaving no one behind. So the next, please. So for that, in 2019, we carry out a project about the role of consumers in the circular economy, in which we focus on empowering consumers and providing them with information about the functioning of circular economy, what is the benefits and also the principle of this model, in order to engage them and in participate in the circular economy. For us, the role of consumer is essential to transform our model. As a consumer organization in Spain, our purpose was to ensure that consumers participate in it, closing the loop. So we carry out a consumer campaign under the slogan, "You close the loop, change to the circular economy," in order to inform consumers about the new model of consumption and production and to raise consumer awareness of sustainable consumption. HISPACOOP works on transforming consumption patterns and habits, also towards better choices based on responsibility and circularity. The need for a strong engagement of consumers on this circular model, leading to an effective and a long-term behavioral change. So for that, we give consumers the necessary tools to promote and encourage changes in the consumption behaviors. We think that we want to empower them and to make purchases, consumer choices, more commitment to the sustainability in the daily life. So for us, our aim is to improve consumer choices and to accelerate the transformation of change toward a more sustainable consumption model. And this is why we give them the possibility to make informed and sustainable choices between different products and services. And we want that the consumer choose those that cause less impact on the environment. Also, for us, we believe that consumers should contribute the motor of change, and everyone can contribute to protecting the environment, choosing in a sustainable way. Therefore, Spanish consumer cooperatives already work on this approach, and they introduce the criteria or circularity in their own business and products. Also, we encourage consumer cooperatives on creating more sustainable products and services in the market, and thereby consumers could recognize the values of the sustainability when choosing and buying this kind of products. All these programs and projects, campaigns, activities that we develop is in line with to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, especially number 12. The next, please. Slides, please. So as well, HISPACOOP promotes a change in consumption patterns toward reducing single-use plastic products or finding more sustainable and reusable alternatives in the market. Last year, we realized this campaign and about reducing single-use plastic products in the framework of a program about sustainable consumption habits and the way towards a circular economy for plastic. Through educational material and other activity in social media, we inform consumers about measures regarding the single-use plastic products with the view of reducing the impact of the environment and promoting eco-friendly consumption. We boost consumers to choose more sustainable solutions or reusable alternatives in the markets. And we believe that being more informed give us the power to demand more in the market and to move toward the circularity. Actively engaged consumers are required to change purchases and consumption habits. So for us, it's important to inform them also about appropriate waste management options for plastic products and the negative environmental impact of the littering, and also waste disposal means for plastic products. The next, please. In the same line and with the same slogan, we produce different educational materials and other activities, such as the second edition of a contest for schools, for students of schools, and also educational center at national level with the slogan of joining the reduction of plastic. We want to accomplish several objectives that encourage consumer behaviors in childhood population, promote sustainable habits to reduce the consumption of plastic products, also inform them about to reduce, to reuse and recycle plastic products, to close the loop, and also educate them to reduce the marine litter for the plastic products, between other things. And the next, please. Thank you. Additionally, we realized a magazine toward to the circular economy in plastic, in which we analyze the different flavors of this material, also the consumption reduction targets in plastic and the impact of this product in the market, and also the difficulties to find more sustainable alternative in the market for consumers. Several representatives of the administration involved in consumer and environmental issues, and also in the plastic sector, presented the point of view to achieving a circular economy in this material. And also Spanish consumer cooperative like Eroski and Consum explained their sustainability policy around plastic as a one pillar of the action to reduce the environmental impact in their stores. We know that the consumer co-ops are drivers of the circular economy, and they take responsibility and adopt measures to move forwards a circular economy in several aspects, like optimizing packaging and reducing plastic, preventing and recovering waste, tackling against food waste, and their commitment on the healthy lifestyle and also sustainable food consumption. The next, please. Consumer co-ops have the commitment to optimize packaging and reduce plastics in their own branch products, in containers and the packaging as a part of the transition to the circular economy. They are focusing on the revision on their own branch products and eco-design with aim to reducing plastics in the market, improving packaging, achieving recycling targets, and also recycled contents. And they adopt several measures to cause less environmental impact. Like, for example, the Spanish Co-op ensure the overpackaging has been eliminated. They introduce environmental criteria in their design. They try to reduce the amount of raw material, especially the plastic material in the products and packaging. They carry out measures to fulfill with the rules related to the remove single-use plastic products and to try to find another more sustainable solution for the products that they launch to the market. And also they want that all branch containers are 100% recyclable by 2025. So also the Spanish consumer co-ops, Eroski and Consum, encourage their customer and consumers to use reusable bags, and they offer compostable bags in the stores. So there are different measures to optimize packaging and reducing plastic in the market. Next, please. Also, consumer co-ops focus on their efforts on preventing, managing, and recovering waste, and they generate the waste that they generate in their facilities and their stores, and promoting recycling and reuse as a priority treatment in their places. So they work to minimize the waste generated from the activity by using eco-design from their own products, HISPACOOP and Spanish consumer cooperatives, they joined their efforts, including at informing consumer about responsible consumption and increasing the knowledge through different activities and campaigns and informative content publicities in different platforms like webs and other resources. Together, we carry out a consumer campaign under the slogan, "Join on responsible consumption, reduce, reuse, and recycle." And we disseminate information in the point of sale and in the stores in order to raise consumer awareness on reducing waste, especially food waste, and also reusing leftovers, recycling waste generated at home, and also correct litter disposal in the household. Next, please. But also, talking food loss and waste is a key to achieving sustainability, and HISPACOOP is very active in tackling against food waste. We play a key role implementing projects, programs, and participating in different activities, all of them with the aim of educating and raise awareness of the need to reduce food waste in household and consumer in general. We inform consumer on of improving the management of food resources and reducing food waste through educational materials, workshops, social media, and other campaigns, and also to act in favor of sustainability. Spanish consumer cooperatives like Eroski and Consum dedicate their work against food waste, and they join efforts with another actor in the value chains to minimize the food waste, and also they are involved in food donation. Consumer Coops works to minimize the waste generated in from their activity, promoting produce close to the expired dates, and also donating food suitable for consumption. They carry out also actions to prevent food waste and encourage their customers and consumers to choose imperfect fruits and vegetables, like the campaign that they show in the case of Eroski. Next, please. We think that current food consumption patterns are unsustainable for both health and environmental points of view. And in line with the sustainable consumption to achieve a circular economy, HISPACOOP as Spanish consumer cooperatives implement programs to protect consumer health by promoting healthier lifestyle and sustainable food consumption. We carry out initiatives, programs, and good practice on promoting healthy and sustainable diets, and also physical exercise between the childhood and adult population. We empower consumer promoting a healthier lifestyle with information on health and sustainability through different channels, with aim on improving of the quality of life and also the well-being. We work also to prevent childhood obesity, educating children and adults or their families about healthy eating and habits, and also disseminating educational material in schools. So we encourage in healthy and sustainable food consumption, offering advice to consumers and to develop different programs and activities, and also provide tools for consumers. We provide specific information on the nutritional content, including the front of package nutritional labeling, and to enable consumers to make health conscious food choices. The next, please. This is an activity of Eroski in food sustainable food consumption, and also the next slide is like the activities that Consum, another cooperative, put in practice in to promote healthy lifestyle and sustainable food consumption. We think that the consumer cooperatives in general promote a balanced diet, and provide advice to consumer, and they try to improve the quality of their own branch products and reformulate food products in line with the guidelines of healthy and sustainability diets. Also, these Spanish consumer cooperatives offer more local products through collaboration with a smaller producer, contributing to develop to the social and economic environment in their stores. and also they try to facilitate sustainable food, reducing the environmental impact in the processes, in the stores, and in the product that they put in the market. So to sum up, for HISPACOOP and for Spanish consumer cooperatives, we want and we work to accelerate and facilitate the transition to the circular economy to all consumers. And we want that no one is left behind in this circular economy. Thank you very much. It's the end of the presentation. Tudor.
Thank you very much, Carmen, for your slides. I mean, it really tells a story of something which, from a business perspective, all these community engagement and social responsibility is technically voluntary. But for a consumer co-op, there is no voluntary, because in a way we self-commit ourselves, because that's what it is to be a co-op. Thank you very much for this, inspiring work that the Spanish consumer cooperatives are doing at Oski and Consum. And of course, we wish you the best of success in your future activities. But I would like to ask you probably a not so easy question of, when we look at these, the massive amount of campaigns and your commitment to raising awareness for such important issues, which are basically not only the responsibility of a business, of a consumer co-op, but they're also the responsibility of policymakers. What role do you see for public authorities in also playing their part in more public campaigns, more awareness raising, perhaps even putting, facilitating and strengthening the education of sustainable development or sustainability in school curricula, starting from elementary school, high school, then universities? Is there, does that fall in your working with the national institutions? Do you call for, strengthened participation of theirs in this process?
Yes, in fact, indeed, all the majority of all our campaigns and programs, they are under the priority of the government. We presented different projects and programs founded by the government, the Ministry of Consumption. So, but when we started to talk about the circular economy, it's like a new concept. And at the first time that we presented to the government this idea of, especially the Ministry of Consumption, when we presented the idea of circular economy, we need to show what is the change of the new model of consumption. And we want to involve consumer in this new concept, and also the administration, because it's new for all of us. And we have, and they, after that, they established in the priorities to work like a consumer organization in these programs and campaigns and activity, in order to promote more this model of consumption in the framework of a circular economy. And also, we try to work, what we want is more cooperation with another ministry. But for example, in Spain, the Ministry of Ecological Transition has the issues related to circular economy. And now we demand more cooperation between ministries in order to develop different campaigns and programs in focus on consumers, but explaining what is the change that we need to go towards to circular economy. So we demand more cooperation between ministry in order to establish different priorities in order to inform consumers in a better way, and that they change the consumer model.
Thank you. I mean, this resonates a lot with our work on EU level in Brussels, because one of the key demands towards the von der Leyen Commission was specifically pertaining to the Green Deal and shifting, and empowering the green transition. One specific demand was break the silos. When you talk about food sustainability, when you talk about environmental sustainability, right now, well, less and less fortunately. Before, it was a very silo approach that this DG in the Commission was handling one aspect of it, another DG, the agricultural aspect of it. Basically, what you're saying that is you're demanding more coherence on ministry level. And because in the end of the day, when the policymakers are demanding more partnerships between businesses in different segments of the supply chain, it's only normal that the supply chain actors say, okay, but we also need that enabling environment, and policymakers also need to work together. Thank you very much, Carmen, once again, for taking us on this journey and explaining to us the great work that you're doing in engaging the consumer. In the end of the day, we cannot do it without the consumer, and I really like to tagline from your slides that you tell the consumer that it is they close the loop, and we cannot do it without them. So thank you very much once again, Carmen. And now I would like to take it to Charlotte. I see your microphone is on and working.
Now it's working.
Ooh,
do you have
fantastic.
my slide on your side? I think it's better that you show them, so no more complication will be from my side.
Yes, exactly. I'm pulling that up
Good.
right now.
Okay, my name is Charlotta Szczepanowski. I work as head of sustainability and quality at the Swedish Cooperation. And we're, of course, firstly a food retailer, but of course we do other things as well, selling other things as well. But what I will talk about today is our sustainability declarations. And you can change picture, you can change slide. And I will talk about, back again. I will talk about the sustainability declarations. I will tell you about what our sustainability declarations are and how we make them, and then what we will use them for. But before I start, the main strategy of Coop is always to integrate sustainability in our decision-making processes from a holistic approach. And the next slide. What does holistic mean then in the context of sustainable food production? Next slide. That is a very tricky question to answer. So therefore we did this together with a lot of other companies within the branch. And you can see them on the side here. It's a cooperation that is run by WWF called the Sustainable Food Supply Chain. And what we say in that group is that these 10 aspects of sustainability is important to address, or even necessary to address. And as you see, they range from climate change, biodiversity, eutrophication, water, and so on, but also social aspects. So when we thought about having the holistic approach on the sustainable food supply chain, you can change slide. These 10 were, of course, necessary for us to address, and this is the platform for us. You can change one slide more. Sorry for this. So these are the 10 aspects that we should really address. So here you can see one sustainability declaration on the picture. It's 10 different parameters, and what we do is that we show the environmental footprint or the sustainability footprint in each different categories, and you're aiming for a low footprint. So you want this spiderweb to be as small as possible. And by doing it this way, we can really see all the 10 different sustainability parameters on one picture, and it shows the complexity of sustainability in all these different aspects. And the development of the sustainability declaration has been done during 2 years, and we're still developing it further on. And the time that how we used to make the framework and to collect all this data from our supplier, and it's a lot of data, I can assure you that. But this really gives us a groundbreaking method to make more sustainable purchases, as well as a tool for customers to make more sustainable choices. And we're using these sustainability declarations in other way as well. We're using them when we set science-based targets, for example, and then we say that we should reduce the climate change without that being on behalf of any other parameters. So by doing this, we can really see that the climate change is reduced, but what happens with all the other parameters. So next slide. And you will see two different animal products here. This is red beef, both of them. So you can see the one on the left is Brazilian red beef meat, and the one on the right is beef meat from Sweden, where the cows has been out grazing so they have eaten only grass and being outside all their lives. And you can see that the difference of these products are enormously. Next slide. You have here, the next one is two plant-based protein. And you can see the first one is it's made from peas that are grown in Öland in Sweden, and it's an eco-label product. Whereas the other one, it's a soy-based product that is produced in China. And it's a similar product, but you can see it's variation of the footprints, it's enormous. And it's very interesting to see the comparison to the beef products on the other side, for example, where the climate change is very high, but all the other aspects are very low. Okay, next slide. So you've seen 4 different sustainability declarations, but what we're aiming for is 17,000 products that should be declared, and we're now up to 15,000. So we have a lot of information on our products. And to the next slide, and then I'll show you how we do this. Because what we do is that we collect a lot of data from our suppliers. We collect country of origin for the production and also for the ingredients. So it's a lot of information. And we are collecting data about the labels and certification, both on products and ingredients. And that we have a digital platform for them to fill in. Then we evaluate all these data according to certain rules, and then we have this database that is calculating the sustainability impact. And you can change picture. So how do we then do that? Well, we calculate the sustainability impact differently depending on what parameter it is. And when it's climate change, for example, we use the RISE database, which is very, very common in Sweden, that we use a specific database. When it comes to water, we use the water risk filter from WWF to see if there is a problem with water in that particular area. And then we use the water footprint. So we combine those two. If this product or ingredients have a KRAV or global gap certification, then we'll adjust that parameter. And with working condition, for example, we use BCI and ITUC. And if it have a fair trade or a KRAV, then we will adjust that parameters. And we're continuously working to improve the framework and the calculations, but we've done that with the best scientific people in Sweden. So we really have a scientific ground in this work. Next slide. Something that is very important in our framework is that the supplier can influence their sustainability declaration. So we have a set of rules where they can verify that they are better than the score that they get in the original sustainable declaration. So here, for example, they can come in and they can say that they have their own product to control different things, or they can make life cycle assessment and show that their products are better in carbon dioxide or climate change, for example. Next slide. So what will we use this for? Well, based on the sustainability declaration, we have developed a governance framework that we will implement for our purchasing procedure for food products. And we have tested this government framework in a full range of chicken and oil products. And the methodology is, of course, scalable. So now we're integrating this in our whole business. And what we do is that we are developing reference declaration in each category. So, for example, in this category, you see a sustainable assortment, and that is the green dotted line. And then we have KPIs that say how many percentage of this category that should be within that border. And then we have the bottom level for this specific category, and you couldn't go out there. And we have a methodology for shrinking this, so the bottom level will be better and better all the time. So we lift the bottom of all our products. Next slide. We will also use this as a tool for the consumers. So in the 15th of April, we're almost there. We've been longing for this for a long time, but then we will show over 10,000 sustainability declarations towards all our customers. And the sustainable declaration will then, of course, help the consumer to make decision based on sustainability. And I think maybe the most important is that they will help the consumer to understand the complexity of sustainability and be able to make the right decision with tools that are already out there, such as eco-labels, for example. But it's a confusion, at least in Sweden, what is the right thing to choose. So we think that this will be a way of showing the complexity and learning a lot about sustainability when it comes to food. Next slide. So we will have it digitally. We will not have any mark on the packaging or anything, because this the whole program is really aimed for increasingly better products all the time. So we don't want to print anything on a package. We have everything in digital tools. And what we can do then, this is not the latest version of the digital framework, but what it is about is that you scan your product, and then you can see your declaration. And in the first step, in the future, you will be able to see what troubles there are, if there are a lot of antibiotics, or if it has a lot of a big climate change footprint, for example. So we won't have this average as it stands here, because that's not scientifically right. But then you click on that, and then you get this bubble diagram where you see all the different scores, and you will also have a spider web diagram if you want to choose that. And then when you click on the bubbles, we will have full transparency on how we have calculated this. So all these things will be in the app, and we will have it on our receipts. And I mean, we have so many possibilities to do this. Next slide. And we think that we has taken the lead before. In 1946 in Sweden, we were the first to declare ingredients on our products, and that is now something that everybody is doing. So on all products in Sweden, we can see this ingredients declaration, and we were the one that led that transformation. So next slide. So now we're taking the lead again, and we want to show all the impact on the sustainability on all our products. And that is, of course, on climate, on environment, and on our society. And then the next slide. So we really hope that this initiative will spread to the rest of the food industry, and the whole framework, everything, how we do the calculation and everything is for free on our web page. So we really try to emphasize the other one to follow us with this program that we are working with. So that was my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carlotta, and apologies, I have been mispronouncing your first name instead of Charlotta, but apologies for that.
No, I'm Charlotta, so that's right.
All right. And well, it really is inspiring to see how, I mean, what lengths you have gone to in order to digest for the consumer, and with the objective of obviously driving the consumer towards the green transition, but really digesting the complexity of food sustainability. And yes, I think you said something very key here, that it is very complex and that there is a confusion. I mean, only at EU level, there is different labeling, different ways of systemizing something which is either sustainable or not in terms of food. And the consumer, I know that I myself am sometimes confused, and it falls in my professional responsibility to know the difference between the different labels. I honestly wish the best of success with this initiative. One key question I have for you is, you mentioned that this is open on the website of Co-op in Sweden. Basically, the question is, who owns the platform that you use for data collection? Is it just you, and who manages it?
At present, we own the data platform, and we have a cooperation partner that we work with. But what we're aiming for is to have all this data in GS1. So that is what we, together with some suppliers, will try GS1 to make standards for having all this information on that platform, because we think that is something that has made the different suppliers a bit reluctant in giving us all this information, because they don't want us to own it. But we have therefore said that we need information on the 5 largest ingredients. So we stop there, and also on risk ingredients. So we made some adjustments just to make everybody happy. But the suppliers has really been on toe and really wanted to cooperate with us. So that it has been a really great. It's been great. I think that the suppliers, they really want to make the right decision, and now our the people who work in the supply chain, they can talk to each other. So Coop's people can talk with others, and they see where are the problems. So now they see, well, if it's olive oil, well, it's the water that is the problem. It's not the climate change, for example. So then they address the water and have good cooperation about the water issues.
Exactly.
So,
yeah. I mean, changing, facilitating a change in culture takes a very long time. It's a very long journey. So I have written it down. The 15th of April, we'll be on the lookout on your, communication, press release, and social media channels to see as you unveil the sustainability declaration to all your consumers. We have 3 minutes left officially of the session. I mean, I would like to wholeheartedly thank each one of you for these wonderful presentations. Perhaps in closing remarks, if I could come back to you with one very quick question, and perhaps with a very quick response from each one of you. Based on everything that you're doing and based on everything that you have presented, my question would be, what room for improvement do you see for your own operations or your own objectives? Like, where can you improve? Where can you raise and get to the next level in what you have presented? Maybe we can go with, in order of speakers. Nina?
I think that one of the important parts for us where we are concentrating is actually towards the more sustainable consumption. So I think that what Charlotta was presenting, I think that's something where we need to improve, to tell and give more information to the consumer. So that's definitely something where we need to do. And I fully agree, the complexity is one of the challenges. And I think here we have a big role, and I'm not talking about S Group, I'm talking about all of us kind of having then these type of kind of a common approaches, how we inform, how we tell, so that the consumers don't get confused. So the confusion, the complexity is one of the topics, and there we have a huge role to play, all of us.
Thank you
but
very
I
much,
would
Nina.
say in the information side.
Yes, thank you, Nina. Mike, over to you.
Thank you. I would say overcoming the complexities and helping our members understand and cut through those complexities on how to how to have sustainable consumption, take climate action. And I think that also ties in with policymakers perhaps supporting that roadmap a bit more as well towards things like net zero carbon, trying to really support those consistent messages and overcoming complexities.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much for mentioning the policymakers. I fully agree with that. Yeah. Carmen?
Yeah, for us and for HISPACOOP, we consider that consumers to be more proactive to participate in the circular economy. And we want that the consumer demand more sustainable products to the market and services. And we invite or encourage the consumer cooperatives and also to provide consumers more sustainable products and services in the market. And that's why consumers recognize the value of sustainability in their products.
Yes, absolutely. Without the demand, even if you have supply, it would be meaningless. And Carlotta, what room for improvement do you see for your activities?
I mean, I see right now we're working in many different areas. Example, food waste, for example, is something that we really need to get a grip on. I think it's like a loose potatoes that is like rolling around. We can't really get it done. But then this platform with all the data and everything, we have so many opportunities to work with this because now we know all the different aspects in all our foods. So that's something. And I want to like stretch out my hand. I would like us corporations to use our platform, develop it, do it together. And if all the corporation in Europe could have similar way of measuring, I mean, just use our platform and help us to make it better, because we really tried it in the scientific way to make this a good thing. So it's nothing that everything is open databases, and maybe there are better ways of doing it, but then we're just positive to make it better. So I'm just stretching out here and would be happy to do this together.
Thank you very much. Actually, very good point. And I see a room for EuroCoop, and not room, but primary role for EuroCoop here to be the platform uniting in all our OU national organizations to see where the synergies are, the potential for collaboration. And once again, really, thank you very much. Looking at the time, we have been invited to enter the main stage for concluding remarks. I myself will present the main conclusions of our session. So once again, a virtual round of applause to each and every one of you for these inspiring case studies and presentations. Very insightful conversation. Thank you for the audience. And now I invite you all to the main stage. Thank you very much once again. Great job. Thank you.